Welcome to my presentation, Chapter 10 of Coordination and Homeostasis, made by Carissa Angelica Mastra. So we're going to talk about this chapter, and this chapter consists of 3 parts, 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3, the nerve system, hormones, and homeostasis. All right, we're going to talk about the receptors to effectors first. That's the start, okay? It's an introduction, so you can get a better understanding of the presentation after, the continuous of the presentation. What is a stimulus or a stimuli? A stimulus is like the term for a singular term, and the stimuli is the plural term, okay? Stimulus is changes in the environment, right? You pick up information from the environment that can be detected by organisms. When we remember Mrs. Grant has sensitivity. That's what we're going to focus on. Sensory neurons, receptors, relay neurons, motor neurons, sensory. They're all in a sense, right? Because these are senses. So stimulus is from the environment. Then we talk about the receptors. The receptors are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Those can also be known as the sensory organs. Okay, the sensory organs. These sensory organs, they are the receptors, right? And that's gonna be the main thing I'm gonna talk about for the sensory neurons for the first part. Then we have the central nervous system and the relay neurons. We'll talk about relay later. The motor neurons and the effectors, muscle and glands. So after the receptors, your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. If our tongue tastes something spicy, glands are going to excrete. Saliva glands are going to excrete because they're trying to protect you. They're trying to activate something to ensure your safety. So you have to let your body do that. You can't stop it because it's absolutely going to happen. This bond that they have, the stimulus to the receptor to the effectors, what does that mean? It means coordination, okay? Coordination is basically ensuring that the actions of different parts of the body work together. So they're all working together. Oh, I see chili, I'm going to taste it. Oh, it's spicy, I'm going to release saliva glands. That is the bond that our stimulus receptor and effectors have. Okay, their central nervous system. Next, introduction to neurons. Neuron is a cell that is specialized for conducting electrical impulses rapidly. They are the special cells made up in human nerve system. We're going to start from the cell body to the nerve ending. Okay. This is a motor neuron, the one that I said that we'll talk about. This motor neuron for figure 10.2 starts from the cell body to the nerve ending. If you want to get a better understanding, I will explain it to you. First, we'll talk about what a dendrites is. It's a short fiber of cytoplasm in a neuron, and an axon is a long, thin fiber of cytoplasm that extends from the cell of the body, extends from the cell body of a neuron. So the axons actually, they're going to pick up a signal, and then they're going to travel farther away from the main body, the cell body of the neuron. Okay. The process, it starts when dendrites, they receive a signal, right? They receive a message from other cells. They pick up a message. Then they carry it into the cell membrane, right? Into the cytoplasm, where it reaches the nucleus. If you remember what a nucleus is, I'll tell you again. A nucleus is the ones that control the cell's activities, all right? And when it comes to ribosomes and mitochondria, it doesn't assist with the transport. Well, it does, but ribosomes make protein. Mitochondria, they provide energy needed for the neuron to function. Without it, then it won't be able to function, and maybe you won't feel anything. It's going to die off, and you're never going to have that motor neuron ever again. You're not going to feel a thing on that part of your body. Then from the information of the nucleus, it goes to the axon. Slowly. So the axon, it's a long extension, right? It carries it away from the cell body. It carries the information away from the body. But the transportation, the way it reaches the nerve ending is slow. So we need the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath, it wraps around the axon. It gives it more speed in a zap immediately, ASAP, as fast as possible. As quick as possible, ASAP. Slow, but okay. Nucleus of the cell, which makes the myelin sheath. That's the nucleus of the cell. It makes the myelin sheath, and then it reaches to the nerve ending, where it is later passed to the next cell. Okay, next. the human nerve system. So we have something called the CNS and the PNS. What they are is what they contain, what they can include, okay? The central nerve system, they include the brain and the spinal cord, right there. And the peripheral nerve system includes the nerves outside the brain and the spinal cord. That's basically the nerves that spread out from the CNS, right? PNS also includes receptors in our sense organs, by the way. So when we detect and collect information that, oh, I touched something hot, those nerves are going to collect that information, bring it up to the brain, it's going to come back, and then it's going to activate the appropriate effectors. The effectors, how you're going to react to what you just touched, something hot, right? So thanks to the peripheral nerve system and the CNS, you're able to do that. That's the main thing about the human nerve system. When it comes to this one, that's in detail. This one is the main idea. Next, we have the reflex arcs. The reflex arcs, I'm going to pull up the definitions. You could read the definitions. I'll mention the definitions later. We're going to talk about figure 10.4, a reflex arc, in the photo on the top right, the arm, okay? It starts from the pain receptor. You're going to touch something hot. Oh, I touched a hot plate. The sensory neurons, it picks it up. It travels, right? You see the arrow. It does not go to the muscle. It goes up. It goes up, all the way up to the cell body of the sensory neuron. The information goes from the spinal nerve to the cell body of the relay neuron. Now, what is a relay neuron? The thing about this relay neuron is that they want to help you, assist you to transport to one to another, okay? The neurons pass the impulse onto the brain. They pass it on to the motor neuron to pass it on to the effector. So, hey, I want to transport this information to the motor neuron and then to the next one, and so forth. And because of that, they were able to create a good flow to travel for the electrical impulse to travel to the muscle along the motor neuron. Okay, it goes on, and then it goes to the muscle. That's when the motor neuron reaches to the effector. In 10.5, the picture below it, this schematic diagram of a reflex arc, it reaches to the effector. Okay. That's the direction. The relay neuron helps it, so, and then it reaches to the effector while it reacts and your muscles contract. Oh, that's so hot. You pull your hand back. Right. Okay. So a relay neuron, a neuron that transmits electrical impulses within the central nerve system. So that's the point we mentioned before. Central nervous system, relay neurons. So we broke down the sensory neurons, we broke down the motor neurons, and we broke down the relay neurons. Now, what do we have after this? We have section 2. What are hormones? Hormones are chemicals that are produced by gland and carried in blood, which alter the activities of their specific target organs. Okay. Before we do section 2, I just wanted to say that the one on the left is extra information from the reflex arc. So the sensory neuron, cell body impulses. The motor neuron, cell body, it impulses as well. Relay neuron, you get the idea. Basically, it's the structure of sensory, motor, and relay neurons. How it looks like when it is managed and how the flow happens. Okay, so the cell body of a sensory neuron is in the middle of the streamline. And the motor neuron is mainly with the branches. The relay neuron doesn't have a streamline, but it has the long branches and the main in the middle. It's cell body in the middle. Okay, what are hormones? They're chemicals. They're produced. They're glands. They're carried in the blood. And hormones. Okay, where do you think hormones are created in? Where do you think it's found in? It's found inside the endocrine glands. Glands that secrete the hormones. They produce different types of glands. The specific thing is that when it comes to the production of hormones, they have these things called target organs. They specifically create hormones just especially for a specific function, right? Known as target organs. Target organs, let's see the term. The hormones alters the activities of target organs. Target organs of whose activity is altered by hormone. Okay. Now we're going to see gland, adrenaline gland, pancreas, testis, ovary, adrenaline, insulin, glucagon, testosterone, and estrogen. So we're going to talk a lot about the concentration of glucose in the blood, which is the production of insulin and glucagon, which is a hormone that is secreted by the pancreas gland. All right, we're going to the next one, and the explanation will become more, Okay. Since section 2 is short, I'm going to explain it. Testosterone is produced by the testes, the plural testes. It causes the development of male secondary and sexual characteristics, and adrenal gland, adrenaline. It prepares body for vigorous action. There's two options when it comes to vigorous action. It's the fight or flight response. Fight or flight. Fight would be like in defensive action. If a bear attacks you, it's you try to defend yourself, you cover yourself, or the vigorous action where you run. That's how I think of the fight or flight response. Okay, now we're talking about section 3 on the homeostasis. Homeostasis maintains constant internal environment to ensure enzymes are working effectively and cells are functioning properly. What does it mean by homeostasis? What does it mean by constant internal environment? Internal environment is inside our body. They're the conditions inside our body. So that includes our blood glucose concentration, our body temperature, and our water levels. That's internal. So homeostasis, they want to keep us healthy. They want us to be stable. They want all of that to be at the right level, right? At maximum optimal level, where it wants us to function properly. Okay. So this inclusion of blood glucose concentration, high levels of blood glucose. We're going to talk about figure B 10.9. When we have a lot of glucose in our body, a lot of, consumption of sugar, insulin is produced. It is secreted by the pancreas. Liver cells use some glucose in respiration and store some glucose as glycogen. The blood glucose concentration falls. It creates normal levels of blood glucose. That's when we know that the homeostasis idea has been integrated. Then we have low levels of blood glucose. When that happens, glucagon is secreted by the pancreas, right? Liver breaks down glycogen into glucose. They break down the glycogen. So all of this is a natural production in our body. You see, insulin, my grandfather, they have this, I'll talk about that later. Okay. Glucose is released from the liver into the blood, and the blood glucose concentration rises. Normal levels of blood glucose. Then we have body temperature. My temperature is super high. It's higher than 37 degrees. So what it does is that we're going to also talk about that later, and the water levels. We'll skip that, and I promise you that's what we're going to talk about. Oh, water levels. When it comes to water levels, we assure ourselves that it's not high or low. So osmosis, the idea of osmosis. So it's giving the idea that we drink enough water, but not so much that we're absorbing too much or losing too much water by osmosis. Osmosis is the idea of using liquid, right? While diffusion is the idea of gas. Okay, next. Set points. What do you think set points are? Set points are the normal value or range of values for a particular parameter. When it comes to parameter is fixed. It's a fixed range. So let's say I want the range to be this and that. That's going to be the range I have, and that's going to be the fixed range. That's going to be the set point. So there is a set point for our levels. Let's say our levels of blood glucose concentration. Our levels of blood glucose concentration must be at a set point. It must be at a fixed area. If we have too much of it, that's not good. If we have less of it, that's not good either. That's why we have our pancreas for the insulin and the glucagon. So my grandfather, they have this thing, right? It's called, the measuring device. In negative feedback, there is a measuring device that keeps track of whether the level is within range of the set point. So this measuring device, for my grandfather, we have this thing where we poke a sharp needle into his finger. Then we use this tape thing to absorb the bit of blood to measure how much concentration of glucose he has in his body. So his sugar levels. When it is high, we make sure that we give him insulin. All right. If the level goes outside the set points, this triggers events to happen that bring back the level back into line again, which is our natural body production of insulin and glucagon. Next topic, metabolism, chemical reactions that take place in living organisms. If I am not wrong, I have a trouble talking about it. We talked about blood glucose. We talked about water levels. We haven't talked about body temperature. So metabolism, chemical reactions that take place in living organisms. It's the idea of controlling body temperature. If the internal body temperature can be kept around 37 degrees, that's a degree Celsius. That's what we should have in the temperature we have in our body. Enzymes could also work very efficiently. No matter what the outside temperature is, metabolism can keep going even when it is cold outside. In cold weather or at night, the animal can be active when other animals are too cold to move. So that helps you with your body heat, your body regulation, your body temperature. Okay, when we look at figure B10.11, a section through human skin. So what we see here is that there's a temperature receptor, sensory neurons, pressure receptor. What do you think we have for fat cells? And why do we have something called the sweat gland? The sweat gland is released out through the sweat pore. This is to regulate body temperature. So when it's super hot, we have that to keep our body cool. So we sweat a lot. But we don't want to lose so much body heat that we are going to die from not having a heat stroke, but being super cold. We have these things called fat cells. They help make sure that you still regulate body heat produced in your body, that you don't have too much heat loss. And as for the hair, they have this thing called the muscle erector muscle. The hair erector muscle. The hair erector muscle, they contract to the point that the hair is pushed up. Because of that, it makes our hair longer, right? Then we have the bud capillary. Since it is on normal temperature, the bud capillary is small. It's not thick. It's not diluted or dilated. I forgot the term for it, but that is the term. A similar term to it. Next, the rise and fall of temperature. So our body temperature. What would happen if it's too cold? If it's too cold, the erectile muscles contract, pulling the hairs up in the end. When they contract, the hair is pulled up. And it makes us store a lot of warmth under our hair, okay? It traps a layer of warm air next to the skin, which insulates it. So that's how our body is too cold. It keeps our head warm. But when it comes to when the body is too hot, what happens? The erectile muscles relax. They don't contract anymore. They relax. When they relax, it makes the hairs flat. And that would mean that they can't regulate or they can't store layers of heat anymore. And that's a good thing because when you're hot, you want to regulate cool air instead. So you want to feel cool. That will help make you feel cool. And as well, the sweat glands, they are released, right? Because of the sudden release, it evaporates, taking all of that energy, that heat energy, into the air. So it makes the sweat cooler and it makes your body cooler, your skin feel cooler. And because of that, more blood is brought to the surface capillaries where it can lose heat. This thing, it's arteries. The arterioles supplying the capillaries, they dilate. So that dilates, okay? Whew. So, sorry for not mentioning the definition earlier, but when you think of hypothalamus, it is the part of the brain that is involved in the control of body temperature. It's basically like your own thermometer. So it tells you, oh, this is hot, this is cold. I'm going to activate something that you don't need to activate yourself. Your brain doesn't have, you yourself don't need to think about it. It's going to come naturally. That happens, okay? It's that helps identify. Then we have the vasoconstriction, narrowing of arteries caused by the contraction of the muscle in their walls. That's when it's thin. That's when our body gets too cold. And widening of arterioles, which is a vasodilation, caused by the relaxation of muscles in the walls. That's when the body is too hot. And that is all. Thank you for listening up to 20 minutes. All right, bye.